Kristin, as we know, ESFPs are objectively the worst type, but can you dispel some of the rumors and actually tell us why ESFPs are the best?
Yes. Well, I don't actually have favoritism with the types. They can all be the best, but I certainly understand where the stereotype is coming from. I've had a look on some of the YouTube comments of ESFP videos, and generally speaking, people tend to think that we're very ditzy, self attention seeking or self-centered, and you understand where that's coming from because we run with our SE function, which means that generally we don't have that inner monologue going on in our head that's going to put that filter there. And then we have FI as our second function, which means that like that's very much about what we want. So what's going on like most of the time is we know what our passions are, what our desires are, what our values are, and we will act on them without having a filter. So it's not that we're particularly selfish, like all the types can be selfish, of course. It's just that it's more obvious when we're having self-centered or attention-seeking behavior, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got like a healthy, self-aware, emotionally aware ESFP, we're totally capable of being, very, very intelligent, compassionate. We know what we want because we have SE with FI there, which means that we know our passions and we're going to know how to act on them. And therefore, if we're in your life, we will also be able to encourage you to actualize your passions as well, which is something that I know my friends have valued about me. We're also really good at activating other people's SE function, no matter where it is in their stack. Like we can bring it out and make them be present in the moment and and sort of initiate the fun, make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can be, we also wear our hearts on our sleeves. So one thing with us that you're never going to have to worry about is that like ulterior motives. I mean, with a healthy one,
right?
Like we can all, of course we can all have that shady stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, what you see is what you get. We wear our hearts on our sleeves. So you're never going to have to worry about like, if I'm sad, everyone can tell I'm sad, So I think that's pretty good. We can also, as we get older, what I found is like we are able to, we use our SC to gather all this data that we spend our whole lives doing. And then as we get older, that refines our NI. So when we're young, we're sort of just experiencing, doing whatever we want just for the sake of it, literally. But as we grow up, that life experience really informs the NI and we're able to refine how things are, the way that things are going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have an ESFP in your life who's a bit older and has more life experience, when they say this is how something is, you like generally speaking, it's probably going to be a bit more accurate than like maybe an NE type or someone who's just speculating about something. So if you have a well-rounded ESFP in your life, we can be really caring, empathic, and we have a lot of empirical data which can help you to work out the best way to do things as well, because we've experienced it, if that makes sense. Oh, and we can be really entertaining, which is great too.
Yeah, that's kind of what drew me to you is, your amazingly fast growing YouTube channel. That's basically all of how the 16 types do and fill in the blank. And it's exactly what I think the community needs at this point. And something that kind of we discussed in like the pre-show was like, people may not be aware, and you kind of mentioned some of like your cognitive functions, things like that. But the INTJ, myself, and the ESFP have the exact same top 4 cognitive functions, but they're just in a slightly different order. But like if you were to see us in the wild, you would not necessarily put any of that together. Like we couldn't be more different in our natural state. And just for my audience, obviously this is not what I normally wear. I just wanted to like introduce my like inner ESFP and kind of show that like I understand what they're about, but it's just like an inner expression of themselves. So do you think that knowing that the cognitive functions were not that different, we're just a little bit in different orders, is that important to know for relationships or just understanding type?
Well, first and foremost, why'd you take the hat off?
Excuse me.
There we go. We're channeling your ESFP today. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and that certainly really helped me in that, if I didn't know about MBTI, I wouldn't really know exactly what I'm capable of and what others inferior functions that I need to work on to be a more fulfilled, happy individual. But knowing the functions and knowing that yours are the same but flipped means I am able to look at INTJs and be like, right, their way of doing things, I need to be more like them in order to be like a more well-rounded individual. And it's like, it's so clear, actually. It's just so uncanny how true I find the cognitive functions to be in like the daily life. Like I was at my cousin's house the other day. So like NI type, so my cousin's an INTJ. And, you know, you guys run with NI. And so you're very good at like foreseeing all these possibilities, planning well ahead in advance. And she is particularly good at like pattern recognition. I don't know if you think you find to be very good at that as well. But like, yeah, I was at my cousin's house the other day and I was just catching her up on my life. And before I even told her about what had been going on in my life, she was able to guess what I was going to say. And nothing that I said surprised her about the behaviors that I'd exhibited, because she was able to apply pattern recognition to my life. Whereas for me, I was just kind of like living my life, not aware that I was repeating patterns and all that kind of thing. So seeing her putting those functions in use is able for me to be like, okay, it might be better for me to think about those kinds of things and like acknowledge patterns, not just in myself, but in the other people I'm with. And I think I've actually experienced this in a very real way because I lived in Korea for 2 years. I was an English teacher in South Korea for 2 years.
Wow.
And that job was, the job that I had a couple of jobs there, and they were very strenuous, fast paced, like you had to be organized, otherwise you wouldn't, function there. And I was forced to be in that situation where I needed to be organized in those ways. I needed to foresee things happening. I needed to be on top of things, like 5 steps ahead of everything. And so I would say in hindsight that I was kind of activating the TE and I a lot in my day-to-day life there, in my daily planning. And overall, it actually made me feel really fulfilled and happy as like an individual. Like I felt like I was being successful in life, and I felt that inner peace and that inner joy, because not only was I activating my inferior functions of the main stack, I was also, still on top of my SE. Like I still had a buzzing social life and all that. So it was kind of experiencing all of the functions coming out in some way. And so I think absolutely it's really helpful for us to know the type that has the same functions as us that are flipped, because we can be like, right, the way that that person's doing that thing is how I need to work on doing that thing in order to be a more, satisfied, fulfilled individual, I think.
Perfect. That's great. Now, speaking of like relationships and being satisfied, what does an ESFP need in a relationship? And I'm talking about like in a partner, not necessarily like a friend or a colleague, but like in a partner.
Okay. Yeah. In a partner, the number one thing that an ESFP needs is to be given the freedom to experience things, because that SE function, like I can't stress this enough, it's literally just like in the same way that the NE is all about like, let's just explore ideas for the sake of exploring ideas. Like it's not going anywhere. We just want to explore it, right? Yeah. It's the same with us. We want to experience and gather literally for the sake of experiencing. Like I'm the kind of person who I'll be driving down the highway and I'll have my music blaring and I'll see a truck coming and I'll roll down my window just so I can feel the wind of the truck going past me on the highway. Like that sounds like thrill seeking, but that's kind of like what it's like. If I'm doing that, I'll arrive at my destination and I'll feel happy and I'll feel like full of life because I've had, I've fed my SE for the day. Well, not for the day, but for the moment. Right,
yeah, for that moment.
Yeah, like it's literally just, it stops and starts with that, just experiencing things for experience. So in relationships, we really need to feel like that's understood and that we can go and have the freedom to go and experience things, not like toxic things or unhelpful things. And we are like, obviously that doesn't say condone behavior. Like don't just give an ESFP free rein to just do whatever the heck they want. Absolutely not. Like we're still 100% responsible for making sure that our impulsive decisions aren't hurting people, for sure. But like those harmless things, or like those like if we just want to point at a destination on a map for the day and just say, let's go there today, the way to love an ESFP or to make them feel valued or to appreciate them is to do that kind of thing with them and not be like, okay, but what's the ultimate purpose? What's the reason we're doing this? And if you're the kind of person that needs a reason, let your reason be to show love and appreciation to the ESFP. And that's just what it is. Like we just get joy from being out and experiencing and enjoying. And the upside of that is like, well, first of all, you're gonna have a lot of fun, but second of all, when we're with you, like you have like our full attention because we're so about what's immediately in front of us. You know, obviously, you know, we all have these things these days, so we're prone to just sitting on the phone sometimes, but I think that's all types, not just just ESFPs. So yeah, 100%. If we feel trapped in any way, like if there's those expectations of how often you need, like how often we need to text you, or how often we need to call you, or how often, you know, we need to see you, and those expectations are being forced on us, we're not gonna want to stay in that relationship. It's the same way that, like, if I'm with an introvert and I'm expecting them to go out for 12 hours and don't give them an out or don't understand when they want to go home, like that relationship just isn't going to work long term because I'm not understanding. And it's the same thing like with us, like that we're not going to feel free, or it's just going to drain us over time if we're feeling those expectations, or like we don't have that freedom to go and experience things.
Okay. Yeah, that is the value of it. Literally is understanding that. And like you kind of mentioned something with SE for the NI types like myself, I think the SE indulgence most of the time comes out in a negative, like it's portrayed in a negative way, because it's like, you know, you could get into any sort of nefarious activities because it's like just fulfilling your, like, I want to do what I want to do right now, but it's not refined enough to know that like that's bad, or like how to use it properly. As I've gotten older, I've learned how to use it to activate NI, to like do something so physical or in the moment that it allows my NI to take a break, and kind of like, I always call it like an app refresh, where it's just kind of running in the background, but it's not fully focused. And that's how I've been like, got a lot of joy out of life. And just like ideas come to you more when you're doing SC activities. Like you have like those flashes of insight where you're like, yes, I finally got it. And it's because you weren't trying to think about it. So you made some good points there. Now, for someone that does skits like yourself, you have like a crap ton of wardrobe changes. Now, one, do you spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out what am I going to wear, or, and do you have to like buy new clothes? You're like, I already wore that last video. Like, how does that work? Cause I've always like, I always focus on weird details. Like, man, she must have to like do her hair differently, and like, or is it all laid out on the bed, or is it just on a whim? It's probably not planned out that far, right? It's probably like on a whim. Right?
Well, it's like I set up my camera and then I go to my wardrobe and I get out 16 outfits. So it's kind of on a whim, but they are laid out on my bed just to make it easier, or like wherever is nearby. They were like, I did a car video recently and they were piled up in the seat next to me. Yeah, the wardrobe is the bane of my existence. Like I would love if I could just, okay, that was a bit of an exaggeration there. It's not the bane of my existence, but like it is a bit like something to think about. I kind of just wish that, like, and I have thought about just implementing just one outfit for the ESFP for every video and one outfit for INTJ for every video. But then that's assuming that I would have the diligence to like remember and keep track of all those outfits. So I didn't think people minded so much, but a few people have commented saying like, oh, the INFJ would never wear that. And I was like, stop watching everything that I'm doing. It's a lot of pressure. Yeah, no, just generally with like with my outfits, I'll be like, all right, ESFP and ENFP are going to be in like the most colorful outfits. You know, ISFJ, INFP and INFJ are going to be in like pastel colors. ISFP, like a bit more of a color pop. INTJ and ENTP, for some reason, I just always put them in black.
I love it.
And like, yeah, INTP and ISTP, like more subdued colors. And I kind of just go with that just as an overall theme. But no, I don't buy new clothes, and I don't imagine that I will, because I don't see why I would need to. Like, I feel like the audience doesn't mind that much. I hope it's
really just it's just like a detail of like, I wonder how much time goes into that, you know, just like there must be some thought behind it that the audience isn't aware about.
Yeah. There is definitely the thought of like what this type would wear, and I do change my hair in between the shots just for variety, so that you can see a change between the characters. But that's just like tying it up, or like half up, half down, or like to the side or something.
Okay. So, you know, obviously for the type obsessed, you are type obsessed. And, I heard that you have like a whiteboard on the refrigerator in the kitchen, that it's all your housemates are typed. Now,
Yes.
how do you utilize that? How has it been important? Like what have you seen since everyone's been typed, and like how's that interaction go, and how's that dynamic look?
Yeah. Yeah, we are quite type obsessed in our house. We love talking all things MBTI. On our whiteboard, we have all the types, yeah, with all of the cognitive functions. And the reason we have it there is so that we can type people when they walk through the door as well. That's so embarrassing. But, it's the truth. We are so that house. I have considered removing it from the whiteboard because we have become, from the fridge, because we've become that house.
Yeah.
At the same time, the girls love it. And it's, I feel like we have a pretty good grip on it because we enjoy talking about it and joking about it as well, but we don't let it sort of blind us to the fact that people can be virtuous and be well developed and surprise us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, the types in my house are ENTJ, ESTJ, ENFP, and then myself, ESFP. So we're all friends beforehand. So we all have a good friendship, and we're committed to like being self-aware and like being virtuous and stuff. But you've got like the TE girls who obviously run with TE, but they are actually very different in the way that they approach things. So like your ENTJ is fed by, the T is fed by NI, and then there's the SI, and that'll manifest very obviously when like, it manifests mostly in like the ENTJ she'll be more bossy when it comes to talking about concepts or ideas about the world, or like, life decisions that some of us are making, because she's friends with us too. I flagged this with her before I talked about this. I was like, is it okay? Yeah. And the SJ will be more like those pedantic little details in the house, like making things clean, cleaning things up. But she's so not super pedantic about that, because that's the beautiful thing about MBTI is like we all understand each other's differences, and if we didn't know MBTI, we would just point at the ENTJ and be like, she's bossy. And we point at the ESTJ and be like, she's pedantic. And like the ENFP, that's a space cadet. And like the ESFP is like, that's some thrill-seeking hooligan, But because of the MBTI, right, we're able to understand that these aren't vices necessarily. It's more so just tendencies based on the cognitive functions. Mm-hmm. And that's not because she's a bad person. That's just because she cannot help but be that way. Mm-hmm. And then, we kind of make jokes about it, and it's a lot of fun. At the moment, we're kind of, it comes out, at the moment, the ENFP is not here because she's gone interstate to see her family. And I'm feeling the difference, because the ENFPs the one that I go to when I just want to talk or speculate for the sake of just that, there's no sort of end goal that we're trying to get to, because we like to explore rather than refine, but yeah, so she's not here. And so the vibe in the house is like, it's great, but it's very like, let's, have a goal. It's very outcome based, and so I need to make sure that I'm feeding my SE, like going out on, but the girls are great. Like I'll be like, guys, who wants to take an outing? And they'll be like, yeah, cool, let's do that. So yeah. And obviously the ENTJ has SE in her stack as well. So she can be super spontaneous and surprising and awesome. The other really good thing is that we all have TE in our stack. So we can say things how they are quite bluntly without worrying about offending each other, which is fantastic. And of course we would appreciate, that's not to say we wouldn't appreciate an FE in the house, but it's just one of the benefits, that we don't have to sugarcoat something. We can just be like, yo, your rent is due, pay it. You know what I mean? Which is so very fruitful. So, and another thing that I've noticed, I will keep talking until you stop me. Just one more thing that I noticed is that, the girls, the TE girls have because they have FI down the bottom, they don't really know, as I was saying before with the FI that I have, I'm on top of my passions, my values. I know what I want out of life. And they do as well, but it's more sort of speculating and talking in an idealistic sense. And actually the ESTJ, I've literally sat down with her a few times and been like, so what are your passions? Let's try and work out what they are. And she'll be like, organizing things. Anyway, so I found that it's been beneficial for the girls to have me around, because I'll be like, right, cool, that's your passion. How are we actualizing this? You know, and I know that they definitely appreciate that.
That
Yeah,
is
it's awesome.
fun.
Yeah, it is. And there's so many jokes that we like, we'll just be able to joke about something. Like, we have this phrase called essing out, which is basically something that is whenever someone's in like a deep conversation of any kind, the house, and then one of the, usually the ESTJ or sometimes me, just like loses focus and spaces out like this. We call that essing out. And so she'll be like, oh, I essed out of that conversation 10 minutes ago. So it's the kind of
that's such a good way to
language.
talk about type. Interpersonal. Yeah, and I've heard other people say like, this is going to be a very J conversation, so don't pee it up.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Or like she'll be like, the ESTJ will just stop and like be like, Kristin, you know, the way that you're brushing your hair isn't very good for your hair follicles, right? And I'm like, sorry, can you take your SI and just put it aside for now? But we can laugh about it. It's really great. So
I love that so much. If you're putting together your dream team for a project, activity, doesn't have to be creative, it could be a business pursuit, but I don't really want to just preface it. It's you, and then pick 3 other types on your team. Who do you pick?
Okay, cool. Well, definitely ENTJ. Just to spice it up, because I know no one picks them. Everyone picks them. Yeah, ENTJ, just to, you know, there's that element of creativity and also just getting things done, knowing a good way to do things. Then I would like an ISTJ, because they'd be able to be more on top of those more particular details, without sort of, I guess, butting heads with the ENTJ. I don't know. I haven't seen them interact in a workspace, but I also thought it'd be good to have an introvert who was happy to work like more behind the scenes while the others are more out there in the world doing. Yes, I have thought about this. And yeah, obviously ESFP is myself. I would consider my role, probably I'd be best in like being out there talking to people, public speaking, personal skills, getting things done as well, as I said. And then my final type would be, I think, ENFJ, because I would want like a FE user who has like, ENFJs just seem to have like endless amounts of energy for people and for tasks. And I feel like having an FE on the team would be really good to like boost morale and just make sure that everyone's taking care of their emotional needs and their health and not overworking themselves and those kinds of things. And I would hope that they would focus on that for themselves as well, not just like everyone. Yeah, so I think that would be my team.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny, like with ENFJs, you think like so my relationship, INTJ, I have really good relationship with ENTJs, but ENFJs have NI in their second slot, but it could not be more differently used. Like, it doesn't manifest the way that it does with an ENTJ. It's like like the NI just doesn't, it seems like totally different than the way that I quote use it. Does that make sense to you? Have you seen that where it's like, it's just 1 slot down, but I might as well be 100 slots down?
Yeah, literally. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's even the same as like the TE being so different with my ESTJ and ENTJ housemates. Like, they both run with TE, but it's like so different. How would you describe the difference between ENFJ and ENTJ, like the NI slot, how that manifests?
It almost seems like the NI used by an ENFJ is possibility, so it almost seems like an NE, but like an ENTJ is like, that will not work. Not going to work. Like, instantly, like, I'll tell you, I can predict the future and say that thing will not work. With an ENFJ, it tends to be like, it's possible. Maybe you could do it. Maybe you should do it. Maybe it'll work out. And I'm like, and then it ends up, that's just maybe my experience in personal life with ENFJs, and maybe they're mistyped as they should be ENFPs, because I always feel like that NI comes out as exploratory and rather than like predicting.
That's so interesting. I have a very close ENFJ in my life, and I must say he can be quite like assertive and not, I would never say bossy because that FE is just way too like prominent, but sometimes it comes out like it's just clear that he's not an ENFP, because sometimes he'll be like, for instance, like one of my friends was eating a brownie over his carpet and he was just like, you know, oh, you know, if you could just eat that with a plate, like that'd be good, just so that there are no crumbs. And then you could tell he just wasn't focusing on anything because he was bothered by the fact that there wasn't a plate for the brownie. And then he just ended up going like, get a plate, you know, and then being like, oh, sorry.
This was super fun. I am going to tell my audience right now, like, Dear Kristin is her channel, is up and coming. I think like 3 weeks ago, when I first stumbled on her channel, it's like 2 point something K subscribers, and now it's like 3.9. It's been like every week it's like up 1,000, or like it's really blowing up. So you heard it from me first. I think I might be the first person to interview. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true, except the people in my day-to-day life who ask me about MBTI, which I make them do.
Good. You should type everyone. Everyone can get something out of it. Anything else you want to let my audience know before we go?
No, just thank you for watching this interview. And if any of my subscribers are there, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. And I love MBTI, but let's not use it too much to, you know, stereotype people and not allow people to surprise us.
Perfect. And yes, keep up what you're doing. So Kristin, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. And hopefully, you know, as you rise to stardom, I can interview you again.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. It's been fun. Thank you so much.
You got it.